Good morning and welcome to this edition of San Diego People. I'm Jason Austell. The 2020 political race is heating up both locally and nationally. Here to talk about the races to watch here in San Diego is political consultant John Dadian. John, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Certainly.
All right, so we've got a mayoral race on the horizon. 3 candidates officially in.
Well, it's not on the horizon. It's here.
Yeah.
You said heating up. The campaigns are here.
The vast majority of people, I think, are leaning toward Todd Gloria. That seems to be what is indicated. What do you think?
Oh, and, clearly, Todd's a class act, and basically, he has groomed himself for this position almost all his life. If you remember, he was interim mayor when the Bob Filner fiasco happened, and I thought it was very smart on his part that he didn't run for the full seat at that time. He just bided his time. He's done a great job as assembly member, so yeah, it's looking very good for Todd, but he's running against an incumbent councilwoman.
Why did you like the fact that he didn't run for mayor when he was the interim mayor?
And I'm going to use one of my great cliches. In politics, timing is everything. And just it was a combination of a lot of things. And people were so soured after the Filner thing. People viewed him as being kind of above the fray. That he saw because he was president of the council, so that's who takes charge when the mayor resigns. So the public saw him as above the fray, that his concern was running for the city. Years later, it paid off because now that's how people view him. That he's not, how some people have a disdain for politicians. Todd is held in very high esteem in the general public.
Yeah, to his credit, as an assembly member in Sacramento, he's done very well. Though he's part of a supermajority, has done very well.
Yeah, he was San Diego council member, president of the council, now an assembly member, and soon to be the mayor. We forget, because we know them, but we forget this is big-time politics. It's the 8th largest city in the country.
How about Barbara Bree?
Again, solid candidate, but again, I'm going to go back to my cliche that the timing's not good for her, I don't think, because she's running against such a solid candidate in Todd Gloria.
Okay, and Tasha Williamson. She doesn't have the name recognition that the other two have, especially Todd.
Well, she certainly does not, but again, you need two things. You need two things to be successful. You need a good product, meaning a good candidate. And again, she really hasn't been in the public sector. People don't know her. So we don't know if she's a good candidate or not. But the main thing that she doesn't have is the second thing. You need to have the resources to get your message out. Mm-hmm. Clearly, Barbara Bree has the resources, okay, even though she's running against a very credible candidate. But Tasha just doesn't have the resources to get the message out. And it's especially crucial if you're an unknown candidate.
Okay, now another one, the 50th Congressional District. We've got quite a lineup of candidates there.
Hot potato.
Yeah.
Hot potato.
Starting with the incumbent Duncan Hunter, who's got some issues of his own right now.
He's got huge issues of his own, but his last name's Hunter. Okay, A. Hunter has held that for decades, has held that office. So don't discount that. That's clearly solid, etc. Very good chance he could still, even under a threat of going to trial, he could still get into the top 2 and continue after March. But there's several very solid candidates.
Talk to us about the candidates that you see as solid.
Well, the first one, Darrell Issa, of course, he didn't run for his North County district. He's running for East County, but there's a precedent for that. Remember Congressman Brian Bilbray? He was known as Mr. South Bay, was mayor of Imperial Beach and supervisor, then congressman. But when he lost that race, a couple years later, he ran up in North County and won that race. So certainly precedent. Here's what people forget about Darrell Issa. Even though he's been out of Congress now for a term, when you go back to Congress, you keep your seniority. So unlike the other candidates, I think that's a huge plus for Darrell Issa. Carl DeMaio, again, solid candidate, was San Diego City Council member, but again, huge name ID. People know him. People liked him. His ratings on the radio were just through the roof. So he's very solid. I think a lot of people are discounting State Senator Brian Jones, and I think that's a sleeper candidate because each candidate had pros and cons, which I just said. What Brian Jones has is he's known as Mr. East County. They know him out there. His entire Senate district overlaps the Congressional district, so I think he has a very good chance.
And we can't forget Campa-Najjar, who ran quite a race last time and came pretty close.
Within 4 points, absolutely. And again, the incumbent Hunter has diminished since then, so a lot of people, the dynamics are, it's the top 2 regardless of the party, so a lot of people feel Campa-Najjar will get in the runoff because the Republicans will split the vote. It'll be one Republican and probably Campa-Najjar.
Okay, John Dadian. Thanks for your perspective. Sure appreciate it.
Good to see you, Jason.